My name is Rick Pal. I run a company in Houston called AirGenerate. We're primarily in the energy efficiency game for water heating and water conservation. I'll talk more about that later, but today I'm here to talk about Jugaad, which is a concept in India, and I kind of spoke to a few of you during the lunch break. Some of you from India kind of know what that concept is, but I'd like to talk about it and how we can use the lessons from Jugaad and how we do things in India into the Western world and the product development and stuff. So let me start with what is Jugaad. Jugaad basically, depending on which part of India you are and how you say it, basically means to do with what you have. And Jugaad is not truly just an Indian thing. There's different versions of it in China, Africa, different parts of Asia. So it basically means to produce stuff frugally. And as the times are changing, it's starting to make more and more sense. Behind me, some pictures of what Jugaad meant when I was growing up, right? Basically overloading a truck so that you save on trips, or putting the boats together to cross a river. Now it's kind of taken on a life of its own. It's actually started in a whole concept of how you develop product. So I'll touch base on that. Before I start on that, let me talk a little bit about a technology curve. This is basically a high-tech technology curve. I've adapted for green energy. That's the business I am in. So what happens is, when the whole idea is that as innovation and a high-tech side of when you're at the top of this curve, you're using a lot of resources, right? So you talk about iPhone or iPad and stuff. You spend a lot of resources to develop that. It's a fairly expensive product to market. Down the road, it may come down, but at least as of now, it's a fairly expensive product. When we look in the green energy space, let me kind of give you an example where the conservation is, right? So you can say, when you leave the room, turn off your light bulb. That's conservation, right? Doesn't cost much, impact is minimal. When you move up the curve into efficiency, we can say use a technology that's been around, like fluorescence, so CFL. It costs a little bit, saves quite a bit. And then at the innovation, where it's more of disruptive, you can talk about LED lights, right? You're talking fairly expensive product to make and use. So those are the stuff that kind of drives that. Now, frugal innovation tells us to kind of increase the scope of these products. How do you use the scope so that the cost and the complexity comes down? And let me tell you, it's just not about cost anymore, right? Because you can strip down a product, but if it doesn't work, it really doesn't make sense. So the quality has to remain consistent. You take away the frills and stuff, but the basic product has to work very well. Example is, everyone knows Nokia. Nokia makes a bunch of phones, different versions. The one that's very popular in India is about a $20, $30 phone. It actually, the LED screen can be used as a flashlight because we don't have power in India at times, right? So that it has multiple address books because more than one person may be using the phone. Different languages for the menu options and stuff like that. So those are the stuff that kind of makes frugal innovation exciting and stuff that we can learn from. So I'm kind of going to start and kind of give you an example, two of product and one of service, kind of tie it all together. So this is a very common scene in India, right? It's actually 50 million of these in India, more than any other country in the world. And the funny thing is, the guy actually who's driving it is probably using a Nokia phone, if you notice or not. So, so as the cost of living is becoming more manageable, as the standard of living is going up, there's a need for putting these people somewhere safely more convenient, right? So how do you do that? And I think everyone has seen this before, right? It's the Nano. Tata makes this. By the way, Tata also owns Land Rover, and they bought it from Ford. So they are they're in the high-end business as well. But they came up with this product. It's a $2,000 car. And they've actually used the principles of Jugaad, right? Basically what they have. So they started from grounds up, figuring out how to make this car. Actually, Ratan Tata came out long before the car ever came out saying, we'll make a car for $2,000. And believe it or not, Henry Ford did something very similar during his time. He actually put a price out there saying, this is the price we're going to follow, and then they followed on how to develop the product. How did they get to 2,000? It's actually, there's a lot of things missing in this car, right? But it's still better than 5 people on a two-wheeler. So just, there's no air conditioning, no powered steering. They only have one windshield wiper, only one rear view mirror. Even the tires, they only have 3 nuts on it instead of 4 because they save time and money on that. There's no welding, I won't say no welding, but minimal welding. They actually use glue and plastics as much as possible. That's how they make these cars. That's what Jugaad teaches you. Make with what you have and make it appeal to a lot of masses. This is a kitchen in India. It's a lower middle class kitchen. Middle class because it actually has gas coming in, right? So it's a middle class. Lower because one thing that's missing is there's no refrigerator. Most of the lower middle class people, and even lower, I'm just talking about the lower middle class, the kitchen, with whatever they make, they have to eat. The perishables don't survive, a lot of wasted food. You have to manage things. And as the family size is growing and people are kind of, the joint family is kind of minimizing a little bit, you have to figure out a way to store food. Not everyone can afford it. So one of the very old appliance companies in India called Godrej came out with this product. It's called Chotu Cool. It actually literally means small cooler. It is a 4.3 liter cooler. It actually, the reason it's very cheap, there's no compressor in it. It actually uses a cooling chip with a fan, just like any computer will. It's very highly insulated, runs on batteries, sells for $60. And not only is the product very cool, the way they've gone about actually marketing this is not sold in a retail store, actually. It's actually sold by housewives in villages. So they've partnered with microfinance institutions, and that's how they're getting this out to the market. Actually, Godrej consulted these housewives when they were developing this product. Very unique way of how to go about the market. The third example I want to talk about is actually in healthcare, right? 1.2 billion people in India. Of course, healthcare has to be a major issue. This is an actual picture of a line outside an eye care clinic in India. So kind of giving you a little bit about the blindness, right? 50% of all blindness in the world is cataract-based. Most of them can be cured. 2/3 of them never have access to a doctor or medical facility. There are actually villages in India, in India and in Africa. Actually, I was reading an article about West African village where there's one ophthalmologist for 2 million people. So how do you kind of make this, what's the solution for something like this? This is Aravind Eye Care Center. It's a marriage between healthcare and something like McDonald's. It's assembly line processing for healthcare. So Aravind Eye Care came up with this, they did some research and they found out that doctor spends a lot of time getting ready. Prep work is pretty intensive. They have to put on their robe, the gloves, the hats, sanitize themselves, and they go in for a surgery. Why not, when they're in there, do multiple surgeries, right? So they've actually come up with a concept, very, very specialized. They actually have nurses that are very specialized in all these things, where 2 doctors will walk in at the same time, 4 beds laid out, and each doctor will operate on 2 people. So, and they do it too because if they need help, there's another doctor in there. And this is a very, very successful model. They do 250,000 surgeries every year, 3 million outpatient visits every year. And there's something else besides that. They actually have tiered pricing. 70% of all the surgeries they do, free. They charge rich people more money, and then you're like, how does that happen? The way it happens is when the rich people go in, they actually pay based on the accommodations they get. So rich people get better accommodation post-surgery. Medical procedure is same throughout. So this is like a tiered pricing, and there is actually an ambulance service in India that actually got started by a TED fellow called Shafi Mathur, where they actually charge people going to the hospital based on the hospitals they're going to, right? If you're going to a very high-end hospital, you pay a little bit more. If you're going to a government-run hospital, it's free. These are a couple of other examples, and these are actually, I'm trying to start about, Western countries. So the top thing is a GE ECG machine, which, you see those ECG machines, they're bulky, expensive. They kind of minimize it, $400. Any doctor in the rural India can put in a backpack and go out there and do this. At the bottom is Tata, again, the nano guys, making a water filtration system. 85% of people in India don't have access to good water. 2 million people die every year. So they built a filtration system based on paddy husk. And paddy husk is a byproduct of rice milling. India produces 20 million tons as a byproduct every year. It's a $20 filtration system for India. So I'm just giving you these examples because I'm letting you kind of make up your own mind on what the ideas you can take and implement in your own business or your career or whatever you're trying to do. The reason it's important is because Dr. Kleinberg was just saying, right, the demographics are changing. We've just lost 22% of our American wealth in the last 2 years since the recession. The GDP, debt to GDP ratio has gone from 65% to 95%. Baby boomers are aging. We will have, actually, the numbers is 1 in 3 people will be on some kind of pension or retirement funds come 2050. So there is a need for frugality, right? There's a need for making innovations that appeal to a lot of masses. There are a lot of ways to put it, like C.K. Prahlad calls it the bottom of the pyramid and stuff. My thing is use this concept to develop products that make sense. And we're doing that. My company is based on water heating technologies. Water heating is needed all over the world, and most of it is heated by electricity. We're in Texas. Texas is a very gas-friendly state, but the rest of the world isn't. There's no infrastructure for gas, so most of the places in the world use electricity. How we do this, we use a technology called heat pumps. A lot of you people probably are familiar with heat pump. For those of you who are not, it's basically reverse air conditioning. When you turn the AC on, you are not cooling the room down, you're taking the heat out. So if you stand outside your house in front of your air conditioner, you see the heat coming out. We do the reverse. Heat pump has been around for a long time. What we've done is we made it very affordable. So if you see the product in the middle, it's called AirTap. It's a box shape. What does it look like? It looks like a window air conditioner unit, because really it is a different form of window air conditioner. We use all the components of window air conditioner unit, make it very cheap. And we can put this on any water tank in the world and make it energy efficient water heater. And this is the stuff that kind of is fundamentally driven by Jugaad. Do with what you have, right? You don't have to go and start the whole thing in a high-tech impact. Do with what you have. Another product we have, every water tank has this thing called Anode Rod. It's a sacrificial anode rod, which takes all the beating, all the corrosion it attracts, so the tank walls are left alone. Once the anode rod gets depleted, and there's a picture of it, it starts attacking the walls. And in 6 to 10 years, depending on the warranty on a tank, you'll see that. This is the #1 cause of tank failures. And in Houston, where we love to put our water heaters in the attic, people are always scared when the leak will happen. So we've come up with a product based on water filtration system. It's a nanoporous tube with the same material that anode rods are made of in pellet format sitting inside a tube. It's easy, and you can always screw the top off and fill it with more pellets, and you can make a tank last a lifetime. And these are the things that Jugaad teaches us. So our goal eventually is, at AirGenerate, is to create net zero energy homes. And as a part of our strategy, we are going to be using Jugaad as one of the fundamental principles for us. And I hope you guys also look at that and start creatively thinking and doing something with it. That's all I have for you. Thank you.